Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Pokemon Adventures Podcast, a short of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast that I do with my good old pal, Dougie Fresh. I am your host, Professor Chris G, and I am proud to announce that we are getting ready to start Volume 2, everybody. And what I like to do at the beginning of every one of these episodes is give you a small recap as to what happened in the previous episode. So this one's going to be a little shorter than usual, everybody. I strongly suggest, if you have not listened to Chapter 14, to go back and listen to it. But basically, Red ends up rescuing Blue from being possessed by Ghastly. We find out Koga, the gym leader, was setting up a Team Rocket base and that he is actually a part of Team Rocket. And he sent his poisonous Arbok out to go and kill Blue and Red. And he did fail. His Arbok got killed in the midst of trying to kill Red and Blue. Basically got sliced all the way down to the meat and was killed. Koga got away, and Red was congratulated in the town by the townspeople for kicking out Team Rocket so they can go back in and visit their Pokemon that have passed away, and that they can basically go back in and start burying their Pokemon again when they do pass. Now, we are starting this week Chapter 15, and Chapter 15 is titled War Turtle Wars, everybody. And I think it's about that time that we jump on into this episode. And we're going to be introduced by a new character. But who is this character, everyone? So we start in the first comic strip, and we have a female who is kind of singing. She's like, dum diddy dum 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 diddy dum, and she's like, oh, and then she looks through her binoculars. She's like, a visitor. Ooh. And we see that the visitor that she is talking about is Red. So it looks like she is inside of a very big lighthouse, like a tower-like structure, and she's looking out and she's looking down with her binoculars at Red. And she goes, ooh, an unsuspecting fool. And we see Red is down there. We see a knocked out primate, and we see Red was battling the primate with his Bulbasaur, everybody. And Bulbasaur is like, and Red's like, what's wrong, Bulbasaur? And Bulbasaur is like, bling! And just like that, everybody, we get a ta-da! And then we get a close-up of Red's Pokédex, and it's like, congratulations, your Bulbasaur has evolved into Ivysaur. And Red's like, all right! But he hears clapping behind him as he's celebrating. And Red turns around. He's like, who? And then the girl that we just saw at the beginning of the comic strip, she's like, ooh, that was awesome. And she's like, congratulations to both of you. And Red's like, huh? Oh, thanks. And she's like, you must be such a good Pokemon trainer. It was so thrilling to watch you in action. And Red is starting to get all smitten. He's like, well, I do my best. And she's like, it's too bad, though. If only you had some Pokemon items. Red's like, items? And she's like, accessories to make your Pokemon even stronger. And she's like, ta-da! And she throws out a whole bunch of items all over the place. And she's like, this Power Plus enhances Pokemon attack powers. And this item, and then right underneath it goes, blah, blah. Basically, she is spilling out what all of these items do. And Red's like, I'm sure they're great, but, and then she starts to get a sad face in the next frame. She's like, you don't want my items? And Red's like, of course I do. But, and then she goes in and she gives Red a big old squeeze and she's hugging him. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. That'll be $6,000. And in the next frame, Red is like, he's like, wow, she really liked me. I could tell. And she said she's my age. Got her own business too. She must be really grown up. And Pikachu's like, Pika? And then we go down and we have a pincer, a wild pincer, is attacking Red. And Red's like, another one. Now's my chance to try out these items. And he goes, Pikachu, HP up. And he's like, what do you want me to do? And then Pinsir comes over and just tackles the mess out of Pikachu. And Red's like, hold still, Pikachu. You need some more items. And he takes out all the items that he bought and he puts it on top of Pikachu. And the look on Pikachu's face in this next frame. So Pikachu has on a headband that has spikes on it, that has a star in the middle, and then has what looks like a plastic vest with the letters TM on it, has a spear, has wings, and Pikachu is like, did you really just dress me up to look this stupid? And as Pikachu is just standing there, all of a sudden, pow! Pinsir comes in for another tackle and tackles Pikachu straight into the air, and Red's like, oh no! And then we jump to the next frame, and Red's like, man, something tells me I got ripped off. You don't think, Red? Huh. Later on, we go to Celadon City, the Pokemon Center that is out there. And Red's like, full restore, please. He gives Pikachu over to the assistant. And then as Pikachu is being treated, he goes over to call Professor Oak. And Professor Oak is like, hello, Red. Dare I ask how you're doing? And he's like, just fine. And then he's thinking in his head, I can't tell him I'm such a dope that I got cheated. And Professor Oak is like, I say you're doing fabulously. You've even evolved an Ivysaur. That Bulbasaur was such a shy little thing, too. Wonderful, wonderful. And he's like, and I see that Blue's Charmander is now a Charmeleon as well. Now only Squirtle's left. And Red's like, Squirtle? He's like, the last of the three that my research has been focusing on. But enough of that. And Red's like, huh? What's Squirtle's trainer like? And Professor Oak is kind of embarrassed. He's like, I don't know. You see, Squirtle was stolen. And Red's like, stolen? And then we fast forward to, I guess Professor Oak told Red all about what had happened inside of his lab, and Red is now outside, and he's like, Pokemon stolen, phony items, how come there are so many bad people in the world? And he's like, well, I'm never gonna get ripped off ever. And then all of a sudden, right behind, we see that lady that has just ripped off Red. And she's like, hurry, hurry, step right up. Welcome to the biggest Pokemon item sale ever. Everything must go. And Red's like, I was hoping to run into you again. And the girl goes, uh-oh, I hate repeat customers. And then she just runs. And then Red's like, stop, thief. And Red starts chasing her down this alleyway. And he's like, I want my money back. And then this girl throws out her Pokeball into the water and says, "Go!" And in the water is a war turtle, everybody. And Red's like, "She has a Pokemon?" And she jumps over the railing and jumps down on top of War Turtle, and War Turtle is swimming away with her on its back. And she's like, "Bye bye, mwah." And Red's like, "That little, wait, I know." He's like, "I just captured it, so its level's low. But here we go." And then he throws out his Pokeball, and then the girl looks over her shoulder and she's like, "What is that?" And then all of a sudden, and then War Turtle crashes into a big something. And she's like, "Who dumped this mattress on the..." And she looks up, she's like, "A Snorlax?" And Red runs over to her and he's like, "Where's my 6,000 smackers?" She's like, "I'm so sorry. I know they don't work, but I don't do it for the money. It's just, well..." And then she tackles Red again and gives him another big old hug. "I really wanted to see you again. Can you ever forgive me for playing such a mean trick? I wasn't thinking straight. I mean..." And as she's hugging Red, it looks like she's kind of like frisking him. And then she's sticking out her tongue. And then right behind him, she's doing the anime where you kind of stick out your tongue and you close one eye and then you open the other eye. And she's like, "Nah." And then she backs away from Red and she's like, "I was just so glad to meet you." And Red's like, "Come on, please don't cry." And she's like, "But I've been so bad and I'm about to get worse." And she goes and she shoves Red and she pushes him to the ground and she says, "War Turtle, attack." And War Turtle starts letting out a bubble beam and Red starts chasing right after her. And she's like, "Huh?" And Red jumps up on top of Snorlax and he's like, "Don't think I'd see that coming. You should be more careful before you try to outsmart a Pokemon trainer with 2 gym badges." And she starts running. She's like, "Phooey." And he's like, "I hope my 6,000 was worth it. Snorlax, Mega Punch." And Snorlax comes down and just punches the ground. And from here, we see the girl, War Turtle, starts falling into the ground, and it looks like she just falls like really, really far. We don't know how far she falls, but as she's falling, she's like, "Double phooey," as she's falling. And then we go, and it's a little bit later on, and Red's like, "She'll wake up soon." And he's looking down at this girl and her War Turtle. It looks like they have carried her and the War Turtle over to safety and have laid them right next to a tree. And the girl is knocked out, and so is War Turtle. And Red goes into her purse. He's like, "Meanwhile, I'll just take my money back." And then he notices that the purse says the word green. He's like, so her name's Green. And he's like, "Since I just defeated it, I might as well get its data." And he opens up his Pokédex on War Turtle. And he's like, "You gotta be kidding. An evolved stage of Squirtle?" And this is where we get the the Pokédex entry of War Turtle. It says, "Often hides in water or stalk unaware prey. To increase its swimming speed, it moves its ears to maintain balance. Its fur-covered tail is considered a symbol of longevity." He's like, you see," or no, he thinks back. He's like, "You see, Squirtle was stolen. The words of Professor Oak." He's like, "Could this be?" And then, well, never mind. And him and Snorlax start walking away. And he's like, "Stay out of trouble now." And we go to the next frame, and the girl is smiling. And then we fast forward to the nighttime, and we're about to go inside a Celadon hotel. So we're still in Celadon City. And Red's like, ah, my trainer badges, they're gone. And he's like tearing the room apart, and he's trying to find his gym badges, but they are nowhere to be seen. And then we jump to another frame where it looks like where we first started off with this girl. And she's like, tee, I could have easily escaped. But when he mentioned those two badges, well, and then she holds up the badges in her hand. There are some things money just can't buy. And then we go down to the Celadon City Arcade, and we hear, still no sign. And then we jump inside, and it's Team Rocket. Team Rocket has taken over this Celadon City Arcade and have renamed it Rocket Game. And the guy, one of the Rocket members, is like, "Well, we were on her tail, but she." And then another one is like, "No excuses. I want this girl now." And he puts a poster on the wall, and we see that it's green. Team Rocket is after green, and the rest of Team Rocket just walks around the photo, and they all stare at it, and they're like, huh. And that is where it is to be continued, everybody. So a lot of information in just one chapter. So we are introduced to green. So now we have red, blue, and green. And I'm guessing green is the one that stole the Squirtle. We don't know that for sure yet, but it is being assumed. Red has his gym badges stolen, so I'm sure Red is going to be looking for green once again. So she stole his money and then stole his gym badges, and all he got back was his money. So very good chapter, everybody. Very, very exciting, kind of setting the stage for what we are going to be seeing in this next volume, in volume 2 of the Pokemon Adventures manga. And it's time to jump into chapter 16 called Tauros the Tyrant. And we start with what looks like Team Rocket is having a little tiny meeting on the inside of the game art or the Rocket Arcade. And basically, okay, so this one's a little weird. So in last week's episode, we ended the episode with Team Rocket putting up a photo, and everybody was circling around looking at Green's photo. And then we jump down and we see Team Rocket still having the meeting. We jump forward into the next frame, and we are out of the the Team Rocket arcade, and Red is like, they're gone, but I couldn't have dropped them. And he's like, that girl Green must have stolen them. She stole my trainer badges, and she's gonna regret it. And he puts down a map on the grass, and he's like, it was just yesterday. She couldn't have gotten far. Now let's see. And then he's like, hey. And he looks up and he looks over to his left, and he's like, they're from Team Rocket. And he sees two grunts just walking down the roadway. And then one of the grunts is like, it always seems like we're just about to nab her. And the second one's like, but whenever we start to close in, all we hear is, Green was just here, but she's gone now. And Red, we get a close-up of Red again. He's like, huh? They're looking for her too. And then he starts sneaking up behind the Team Rocket, and Team Rocket is splitting up in two. One's going left, one's going right. He's like, this calls for a new strategy. So he starts to follow the Team Rocket grunt that went right. And he's like, hey, mister, want to see something? And then the Team Rocket grunt goes over to the bush where Red was leading him. And then all of a sudden he's like, wonk! and it looks like Red knocked out one of the Team Rocket members and then took his shirt and his pants off so he can disguise himself as Team Rocket. He's like, now to sneak into Team Rocket's hideout and find out what they know. And then he's like, a unit cover point 16 east, B unit patrol point 2 west. So okay, in this scene, we're back inside the Team Rocket game room, and one of the Team Rocket members is like, A unit, cover point 16 east, B unit, patrol point 21 west. And then he's like, C unit, into the laboratory. And then he looks underneath a poster and hits a switch, and then a door opens, which leads to the downstairs secret department to this rocket game unit place. And if you remember the video game, you had to hit this button in order to go down to try to stop Team Rocket in the red, blue, green, and yellow version. So we go downstairs, and Red is following the Team Rocket members all the way down the stairs, and Red's like, what the? And then we see a Mewtwo who is half made. So Mewtwo has its head, it looks like most of its body, one leg, one arm, and its tail, but it's missing its right arm and its right leg. And then you just hear gloop, gloop, gloop. And Red is like, is that a Pokemon? And then we see Blaine's is in the background, and he's talking to Team Rocket. As you can see, we are creating Mewtwo from the Mew cell you recovered. Unfortunately, that single cell lacks the genetic data to create a complete body. And then one of the Team Rocket grunts is like, but if we capture and bring you the original Mew? And Blaine goes, is that possible? And then the Team Rocket grunts like, he slams his hand down on the table. That's why we want that girl. Our only hope of capturing Mew is to get back the disc that she stole from us. And it looks like it's a floppy disk with the words Mew on it. And Red is like, all of a sudden, I don't totally hate Green. But what's this Mew they keep talking about? And then all of a sudden, the sirens inside of the building start going off. All troops assemble at point 16 east. The thief has been spotted. Repeat, all troops to point 16 east. And then we fast forward to point 16 east, wherever this is on the outside. And then we see Green. She is being surrounded by at least 20 to 25 Team Rocket grunts. And she's like, all this fuss to catch one little girl? You boys must have run out of evil deeds on your to-do list. And Red's like, that's her. And one of the Team Rocket grunts is like, save the witticism. You know what we want. And then she takes out the floppy disk and she starts waving it. And she's like, you mean this silly thing? I guess I could give it to you. Except I want to catch that cute little Mew for myself. And she throws the floppy disk up and lets out War Turtle. And War Turtle grabs the floppy disk in its mouth. And Red's like, what? And then one of the Team Rocket grunts is looking at her. You'll damage that disc. And then Green's like, nope, you will, if you attack me. And then one of the and she's like, but if you want to risk it, go right ahead. Mwah. And one of the grunts is like, oh yeah? Machamp, go, but spare the disc. And Machamp gets thrown out. And then on top of that is a Hitmonlee that gets thrown out as well. And Red's like, look out! And Machamp goes in to punch War Turtle, and War Turtle is dodging left. Hitmonlee is using its kick, and it tries to kick, but War Turtle flies up and dodges the kick. And then at that very moment, Machamp goes in for a punch, Hitmonlee goes in for a kick, and they kick and punch each other while War Turtle dodges right underneath. And Green starts laughing. Oh, you're so cute when you try to pull your punches. Mwah. And she's like, you gotta be more careful before you try to outsmart a trainer with 2 badges. And she flashes her earrings, and we find out that she has taken Red's gym badges and made them into earrings. So she can walk around with them. And this just makes Red mad. First she steals my badges, and now she steals my lines. And one of the Team Rocket grunts is like, I'm too old for this nonsense. You'll find that this Pokemon has a very special attack. And then he throws out his Pokeball, and it's a Tauros. And she's like, and then the Team Rocket grunt is like, this Tauros was once called the King of the Savari Zone. And he then continues in the next frame, and we see that Machamp and Hitmonlee and Tauros now have surrounded Green and War Turtle. The Team Rocket grunt is like, it's the leader of the herd and has the power to control other Pokemon with the swish of its tail. And then we get a close-up of Tauros's tail just going whip, whip, whip. And at that very moment, we have a Geodude, a Graveler, the Hitmonlee, and the Machamp all go in for an attack on Green. And all of a sudden, Green's like, oh no, quick! And then, bam! War Turtle gets punched in the face. Bam! Hitmonlee kicks War Turtle. And then War Turtle's like, ah, bet! And then he spits out the floppy disk, and one of the Team Rocket members grabs it. He's like, yes. He's like, the disc is ours. Let's finish off this little brat. Tauros, attack. And Green is now desperate. And she's like, eep, switch. So she calls back War Turtle and sends out Ditto. And then Red's like, what is that? Oh, no. Yeah. He's like, what is that? And one of the other Team Rocket grunts is like, I'll tell you what it is. Something about to go splat. That's what. And it's at this point that Tauros starts kicking its leg back. And then you hear, look out! And then Ditto and Green are like, oh no! And then we have Red just jump right in front of Green, pushing her out of the way, but he's only able to push over Green, but is not able to save Ditto. And the Tauros and Ditto both fall over this cliff that was right behind Green. And then the girl's like, oh, it's you. You came to rescue me, my hero. Mwah! And Red's like, I don't suppose you happen to notice that your Pokemon just fell off that cliff. And then all of a sudden you hear, boom, boom. And the Team Rocket grunt is like, you think a little drop like that will stop Tauros? I'll scrape up your Pokemon later. Are you ready to give yourself up? And then all of a sudden Tauros starts whipping its tail. Whip, whip, whip. And the Team Rocket member is like, what? Whip, whip, whip. And then it's at this point we have a Rhyhorn, a Graveler, a Machamp, Tauros, and Hitmonlee going in to attack Team Rocket. And Red's like, what? And then all of a sudden Machamp goes in and just starts punching one of the Team Rocket members. And the Team Rocket member is like, ow, yow, ouch. And Graveler goes and body slams another Team Rocket grunt. He's like, I thought these were ours. Oof. And then Green grabs Red and she's like, come on. And Red's like, huh? And she pulls him by the arm. And the Team Rocket grunt is like, hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to capture her. And then Red is like, or not Red, and then Green is like, I hate to break it to you guys, but this naughty little Rocketeer is my sweetheart in disguise. And she takes off Red's Team Rocket gimmick all off of his body, and he's back in his regular clothes. And then at that point, the Team Rocket member was looking right over, and he's in shock, and then gets booted right in the face by Hitmonlee. He's like, ah! And Green is like, have fun now, toodaloo! And Red's like, hey, hold a minute. And then she sends out her Jigglypuff, and Jigglypuff starts puffing up her body. She grabs a hold of Jigglypuff's leg. She holds on to Red with the other arm, and she's like, isn't Jigglypuff cute? And then they start flying away as they look down at the Tauros, transforming back into cute little Ditto. And it's like, dilly. And Red's like, you mean it was that thing all along? And she's like, yep, that's my Ditto. And then she calls Ditto back into its Pokeball. And she's like, Ditto can change into any Pokemon there is. And then one of the Team Rocket members gets to his feet as they're flying away on Jigglypuff. And he's like, those little brats. Who cares? All that matters is we got the disc back. And let's see, we go to the next frame, and we're right in front of Rocket Game. And then we hear, there it is. I hope you're happy. Barely got away from them with our lives, and the next thing you know, she's making me lead her right to their lair. So it looks like Green has forced Red to show them where the Team Rocket hideout is. And she goes, will you be quiet? She's like, of course they aren't after us anymore now that they've got their disc back. Red goes, and she's like, what do they have back? And she puts a disc in the air, and Red's like, huh? And she's like, after all the trouble I went through to get this, you think I'd give it away? I gave them a fake one. And this one is going to help me catch the cutest little Pokemon of all. And Red's like, you mean Mew? And that is where we end the episode, everybody. A little confusing if you weren't following with the or actually reading the comic as I was reading it, but that's it. So she stole a floppy disk, which back in the day was your old USB drive, and she stole this from Team Rocket. She expects to catch Mew. She gave Team Rocket a fake one, which I'm sure they're soon going to find out that disc is fake. And she has now gathered back up with Red. And I want to add, she still has yet to give Red back his badges as well. And she's still wearing them as earrings, as in the final frame that we have here. So the next chapter is chapter 17. And it is titled The Jinx Jinx. And it looks like right up front, we have a picture of Mew for that chapter. But that is it, everybody. And now it's time to start getting our plugs in for this episode. Make sure you follow us at PokeBreakdown on Twitter. At this point, if you are listening to this episode on the free feed, the entire second volume is already out there for you to listen to on the Patreon. Go ahead and go on patreon.com/everypokemon and subscribe to one of our many tiers that we have. We have a manga only section for only $5, everybody. If you want to listen to only the manga, or for just a little bit more, you can get the Pokemon episodes that I do with Doug, our main weekly podcast, along with the movies. So make sure you go on Patreon and you go and subscribe. But other than that, everybody, I want to thank you for downloading this episode. I hope you guys are really enjoying these Pokemon Adventure shorts. And we will end up getting together next week for another brand new episode of the Pokemon Adventures podcast, a short from the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast that I do with good old Dougie Fresh. My name is Professor Chris G, and I am signing out, and I will see you again next week, everybody. Have a good night. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. I am one of your hosts this week, Professor Chris G, and on the other line with me is my partner who's been here ever since the beginning. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, my man, how you doing today?
Because you couldn't find anybody else. I'm good.
That is true. That is true. Nobody else wanted this job but you. But also joining us this week on this special journey that we're about to start going down is our premium Patreon guest, Grant. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for coming back. But yes, everybody, this is a special episode. As you have probably have seen in the description, we are embarking and we're taking a break from Black and White. We're taking a break from the Orange Islands, and we are going down the 11-week episodic series, I guess you could say, of Ash's final episodes, giving you something fresh and brand new. So, and today we're going over the very first of those 11 episodes. And today's episode is called, it's translated, so there's no English as of this writing, but it's translated as Winds of Beginning, The Endless Road is what this episode is called.
Oh, and that's a lie right off the rip, isn't it? I mean, we know there's an end. It's in 11 episodes.
I mean, yes, they did announce that. But there's a lot that goes on in this episode. And before, I mean, we're not going to give any spoilers because obviously that's what the review is for. But I don't know if you guys have noticed or if you guys have ever watched the original Japanese Pokemon episodes, but they went back and brought back the very first Japanese introduction song from the series, which I'm hoping when it's translated over in English that we get the very first Jason Page I Want to Be a Master song when they start translating this over into the English version, guys.
I'm sure they'll just pick one of the random ones they did in Gen 3.
They probably would too. They're like, we don't want to pay this guy any more money. He already has residuals for life.
Give me that Orange Island song, and I'll be a happy fella.
You know, and I'm kind of wondering, maybe they go through, and I mean, I have yet to see the next episode since as of this recording, this is the only one they've brought out. But I wonder if each week they're going to do a different theme song from a different part of the series, or if they're just going to stick with the original. What do you guys think?
They're gonna do a Poke Rap with all 1,000 Pokemon.
Yes.
You know, I would not be opposed to that because I'm a fan of the original. Bring back the guy that did it. I mean, hopefully he is still around. I'm not sure on that, but if he is, hire him because apparently, even for the American series, I guess they brought back in the next few episodes. We're getting Brock back. We're getting Misty. But apparently, the guy that did Silent's voice, because Silent, I guess, is coming back too in one of those episodes. He's a famous voice actor now, and I guess they spent a very, very, very pretty dollar to get him to come back for that one episode that he's doing in this final 11 episode run. So if you're gonna dish out like coin, just go ahead and dish out coin and give the fans what they want. We want a 1008 Poke Rap. That is what we want.
With all regional forms and all mega evolutions.
Yes. That Poke Rap will take 30 minutes to even do.
And it's funny that you mention a Poke Rap because you still owe the people an original Poke Rap.
I do. And you keep bringing it. Will happen one of these days. One of these days, I will do it. It's not happening tonight. My voice is.
I understand that. Oh, I know. I understand that. I'm kind of expecting at the end of episode 11 of this arc. I'm kind of expecting it because that's kind of the closing of a chapter. So you got a couple months.
Yeah, I do. So I have almost 3 months. So they said 3. Yeah. So they said the start of the next arc is going to be in April. So yeah, I guess they're not really taking any breaks. They have to really dish these episodes out week after week. I was scared that at some point that we're going to get like a week off or right before the 11th episode, they're like, this episode will air in 2 weeks. But I guess if I'm doing the timeline right, if they're jumping into the next arc in April, at the beginning of April, they kind of have to every single week get these episodes out. And maybe even double up on the last one if I'm doing my math right, but I'm not sure. But we'll see.
If you wanted to make a spectacle out of it, you're like, these are the last 2 episodes. It's it's an hour-long block. You build it up and you
2, 3. This is just me doing math, people. 4, 5. Let's see. 6, 7, 8, 9. That's March 10, 11. Okay. So if this is ending on the 24th of March, if it is, that means that they have 1 week off to kind of let it sit in that we just said goodbye to Ash, and they can jump right back into this on April 7th, which is what I think they announced that arc is coming out. But I don't have those notes in front of me. I will dish that out on a future episode if I'm able to find it, because it might not even be confirmed. I might have seen that on a rumor mill or something.
Right.
So, but there's a lot going on in this episode. It seemed like it went very fast, and you both kind of agreed to that while we were preambling. But yeah, there's a lot that they just put into this one episode, and it was kind of overwhelming a little bit, but kind of satisfying in a way. So I'm really excited to start reviewing these episodes.
It got it off on a good foot. I'll say that much.
Yes. So I will give a little bit of a preamble into this, since we have not covered journeys yet, or a lot of journeys. So this episode aired in Japan on January 13th, 2023. And Ash has just won the big Pokemon competition, and he has beaten Leon. Him and Go have separated into their own journeys. Go went on to go and try to capture every type of Pokemon that there is, and he's also on his journey of becoming a Pokemon master himself. Ash has set foot, and I really don't. I saw in the preview trailer that he does end up talking to Gary again, but he hasn't had that conversation yet. But he's off to go find his next adventure now, which is where this episode is taking place. So Ash has no course. He's just out wandering around. Even as, I mean, not too much of a spoiler, but his mother doesn't even know what he's up to as of yet, because everything is still fresh. So that is where we are in the Pokemon series, to kind of give you guys kind of a little bit of a backstory before we dive into this episode. But are you both ready to start diving on in?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
All right. So we start this episode and we're looking at a long trail, and the trail just it's endless. And you see Ash, and he is trucking away with Pikachu on his shoulder, and he's just continuing his journey. And Pikachu is just looking around and being mesmerized by all of the surroundings. And Pikachu starts to yawn, and Ash then comes to a fork in the road. And he's like, oh, a crossroads. He's like, which way should I go? And he's like, man, and Pikachu is just looking, and Ash finds a twig on the ground, and he's like, I'll let this twig pick which direction that we go. And it has two leaves on it. Pikachu does its little tail whip on it, and it starts fluttering down, and it spins, and it drops. And when it drops into to the left in the fork. So Ash is getting ready to start trucking away. Pikachu's right behind him, and Ash is like, yeah, we'll go to the left. And then he's like, well, you know what? The right looks better, so I'm going to go to the right.
He okey-doked. He almost okey-doked himself. He's like, yeah, we're going to go right. And Pikachu eats it because Pikachu wasn't thinking. Pikachu's like, all right, so we're going left. And Ash turns on a dime, and he's fine. And Pikachu's like, nope, had too much momentum.
And Pikachu just gets mad, but he's like, all right, you want to play? Well, play, Ash.
He shoots the cap off his head, which I think is the most accurate I've seen one of Pikachu's attacks, because usually he just electric attacks indiscriminately, and he'll just fry anybody. But he knocks it off, and Ash has to kind of grab it before it hits the ground. And he's like, oh, now you've done it. Now you've messed up. And Pikachu's just like, oh, ho hum, me, I've been asleep this whole time, scratching its ear. And so we're playing dumb. Is that what it is? And he's like, well, if that's the case, I'm just gonna go on my way, and I can leave you there. And Pikachu's like, the hell you are. And he knocks the cap off his head again, and now Pikachu's just ha ha ha. And he's like, well, I'm leaving. And he bolts off, and Pikachu's like, oh shit, he's serious. And he has to catch up, and he jumps on Ash's shoulder, and they both kind of grin at each other like, hey, wasn't that fun? I think we can, and it's like, okay, now we're going to be serious, and now we're honestly going to go on our journey. Then we get the title sequence.
Yes, and in this title sequence, as we just stated before, it's the original theme song. I mean, they did add a little bit towards the end of the theme song, kind of showing Ash's full journey from starting in Kanto, going all the way through to him becoming a champion. And you get a bunch of nice frames from the original Pokemon series, the original art, and you can definitely tell that they have gone a different route with the artwork of the Pokemon series, looking at this theme song. And I'm kind of watching it as we're going on. But right in the middle, you get a nice little picture of all of his adventures and all of his traveling buddies in one big glimpse. You see his Butterfree, that he said goodbye to, that he actually got to see not too long ago, and found out that his Butterfree is actually doing fine. And his Butterfree actually has had kids as well. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this, because no need in going through the entire theme song.
Long intro.
Very long.
Yeah, very long intro.
Obviously, I just skimmed it because I was like, all right, I understand you got the nostalgia with the, I would say, a little more than half of the intro, and then it was like, oh, current day stuff. But this was, I feel like this was a little longer than.
Could you believe that on the original? I mean, obviously they updated the ending of it, but every single week that people in Japan was watching Pokemon sat through that intro at the beginning of every single episode, every single week. And that whole song that you just heard, it was that whole song. I used to have VHS tapes of Japanese episodes, and boy, I remember that song.
I mean, that's you want to say. Like, oh, go ahead.
I think it's like a Japanese trope, though, because like if you watch other animes, they also have like almost full-length theme songs.
Yes.
So I wonder if it's just like a Japanese thing.
I think so. But Grant, you are our guest on this episode. Do you want to, after the title sequence and we get the name of this week's episode, do you want to start us off on the title sequence, or right after the title sequence?
Yeah. So it starts with Pikachu. He's just kind of dancing. Oh, that is the title sequence. Okay. The winds of beginning, the boundless road. And then it goes to a tree, and there's a phantom getting out from behind a tree. He sees this couple of Sawsbucks. It's kind of a Squovid and a Rattata are fighting over an acorn.
I thought that was
a Seedot. Yeah. Then it shows a Seedot walking by. Then the narrator chips in. He's like, following the wind, following their whims. They're just kind of... Ash is kind of walking through with Pikachu. And there's like... It just keeps doing scenic views of Pokemon dancing. And there's a Cherubi.
Yes, and we do have Ash and Pikachu. They're starting to jump on rocks, and they're continuing their journey. Ash falls into the water, which one of the funniest scenes in this whole episode. Ash falls into the water. Pikachu turns around and was like, "Oh, geez!" And then 3 Magikarp just bite Ash right in the ass and just starts like just biting his butt, and he just jumps up and he's like, ah, and Pikachu's like, oh my god, there's 3 Magikarps. And
the frame, I'm paused at 423, and just the shot, the pure shock face of Pikachu, just completely white eyes, crazy background, the one bead of sweat, like you said, Pikachu's like, oh my god, just something we don't see in this, and it gets reused a little later. The kind of take you don't see in the Western versions.
Yes, and they have fun with the animation in this episode. I'm sure as the episodes go on, they're going to have a lot of fun with some of the animations, especially this week's episode that's about to air, where Ash meets up with Misty again. But yes, Ash flops right onto the ground, And he's like, Magikarp. And Pikachu is just holding back laughter and just falls back on it and just starts slapping the ground like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. Who has a camera? I need to take a picture of this. And Ash is just crying for Pikachu. He's like, Pikachu, don't laugh at me. And Pikachu's like, fine. He's like, thunder shock. And just shocks Ash and shocks all three of these Magikarps, and the Magikarps are like, we didn't sign up for this. And just fly right back into the water. And as they're flying into the water, you can just see the steam just rolling off these Magikarps as they're going back into the water to kind of cool down. And then we have a funny Ash which if they ever drew Ash with an afro, this was it. Because the animation of Ash's face after he had just gotten fried, he has the definition of a afro right now. Boy hasn't had a haircut in months, is what it looks like.
I reckon that would be the extent of Ash's hair growth. I don't think it would ever get much longer, much thicker, I guess I should say.
Well, he's had a long journey to become champion, and he didn't have time to go get a haircut. He needed to go out there and focus on beating Leon.
Yeah.
But all right, Grant, you wanna take it from this part right here?
Sure. So it cuts to the forest. And then Ash and Pikachu are swinging on vines like Tarzan, and he sees a Kakuna up ahead, and he passes it, and then he hits a tree and falls down.
George of the Jungle style.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Pikachu looks up, and there's Kakuna just falling. Ash catches it, and he's relieved, and Kakuna's like, oh, it's sleeping, but then it's about to, evolve.
The animation for this evolution was just awesome. The way that they showed it.
So it evolves into the Beedrill, and Ash is just holding Beedrill in his arms like something. Then Beedrill's like, well, shit. And he's points his needles right at Ash. Ash is like, bro, don't do that. I'm all good. Beedrill's like, want a shake, bud? So Ash just kind of pokes the needle.
and Beedrill just looks at him and is just like, all right, well, that was that. I'm out of here. And just flies away. Doug?
Yeah, so he collapses in a pile of jelly, and he's like, "Oh my god, that could have been it." And then he's like, he kind of looks at his fingers, and he's like, "Did you see what I just did? What did he say? I made fun. I made fun with that Beedrill. I made friends with that Beedrill." And he's like, "I am king of the forest." And Pikachu's like, "All right, I didn't get shocked, so I'm happy." And then we go out, and Ash puts his bag down under a tree, and him and Pikachu just kind of lay out, and we get a nice shot of the sun coming through the tree, and we get a really realistic looking sky. We get a Beedrill coming overhead that doesn't factor in.
That was a Ninjask.
Was it? It went by so quick. I'm glad somebody caught it.
Yeah, Ninjask.
Doesn't factor, and they're just kind of chilling. And then we go back to the Ketchum residence, and I get to see my first Mr. Mime, since he was a focal point in the Kanto episodes. He looks realistic as all get out.
Yes.
He's not bulky. He's You're going to have to answer me on this, because I don't know if this is a thing. Is this Mime tanned, or is this what they've done to Mime now?
I'm guessing this is what they've done to Mime, because every time I see Mime in this type of animation, because I saw it in the Pokemon Sun, which, I mean, that was just them transitioning to this animation. So it's still a little bit different than what we're seeing now. But back in Journeys, this is how Mime has been kind of portrayed, a little bit more smooth out and just looking like an actual human.
Right.
I guess you
Which
could
is
say.
kind of creepy, but I kind of prefer this version to the one that I'm familiar with, but maybe that's just because
Kind of similar to Detective Pikachu, Doug.
Oh yeah,
In a way.
yeah. Well, if that's the case, I chalk that up to an accident. There's no way that was done on purpose, unless it was done. Well, if the animators saw Detective, I don't know. But so he's sweeping outside, which I mean, are we still? Still weird. I don't care what you say. And Mrs. Ketchum has a nice Squirtle watering can, and she's watering the plants on the banister or whatever, the little patio area, and he just, the caption says Mrs. Mom.
Well, I'll point out it says Miss Mom, implying she's not married.
Yeah.
Oh, Ash's dad died in the war or whatever. And we see Professor Oak popping up in his bicycle on his bicycle, and I'm paused at 7:07, and the look that Mime is giving him.
I know. It's like,
oh man, this dirty old bag. He's back.
This fucking guy.
Stealing my woman
again. Every single time you come to this house, I get no sleep.
Oh God. Oh Lord. I don't care for that at all. And
oh man.
You know, Oak's like, oh, how's it going? How you doing? And like, have you heard from Ash? And Miss Ketchum's just like, nope, not a word since. I don't know where he is or what he's up to. And she's smiling the whole time. She doesn't really give a shit. She's just reporting facts.
She doesn't care. She's like, both the men in my lives have left me.
This is a far departure from the Mrs. Ketchum in the Kanto, where she's like yelling at Ash on the TV when he's in the Pokemon League that he better have clean underwear on. And we see a picture of Go and Ash and all bunch of people and a bunch of Pokemon.
So in that photo, so what you're seeing there, because you also see a blue Voltorb, which is a shiny Voltorb.
I was just saying, that's a shiny Voltorb there.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And so everybody that's in that photo, that's where he was in Journeys. So when he went and won the championship, everybody came out to come see him. Those are his Pokemon that he won with. You see the Gengar, the Dragonite. You see a lot of Go's Pokemon in there. I'm trying to see, they do not have... Oh, they totally missed an opportunity. But Go has a legendary Pokemon that is not in this photo. Huh. They missed an opportunity. But you see all of Go's Pokemon, Ash's Pokemon, and they're all that was their goodbye photo a couple episodes ago.
Oh.
Yes.
That's pretty that must have been one hell of a photograph to get some of these. For the most part, they're all in there. I mean, there are a couple that are kind of cut off, but I mean, for the most part, they're all in frame.
Yes.
It's pretty impressive.
But
so, you know, she's like, well, it's nice to wander around without anything in particular to do now and then. Miss Ketchum must not be familiar with the filler episodes. Because that's 50% of what Ash is doing. And Oak's just like, I used to be just like that when I was young, and Mime's still giving him the side eye, like, when the hell were you ever young?
Mr. Mime just gives no fucks at all when it comes to Professor Oak in this scene.
Yeah, he starts sweeping around his bike, and Oak starts to recite a poem.
Yes, and for people that are not familiar with that, Professor Oak has become a very famous Canto poem. Poet. There you go. I was about to say something else, and I'm glad you corrected me.
You were about to say poemist.
Yes, I was. But do you want to recite this poem that Professor Oak is about to, or you want me to recite it, Doug?
I can do it. So yeah, I kind of get the idea that this is kind of a regular feature because right before he starts to say the poem, you get a screen that looks like it's straight out of a postcard, and we get text in the corner, and it says Pokemon Haikyuu because it's translating the written word behind Oak. And he says, if it's friends you seek, you should start with Pokemon 151.
Mrs.
Ketchum pops in with Master the Craft, and Mime's like, okay, we're done here. And he just starts sweeping. And Oak's like, oh, fuck. Oh, goddamn. Oh, God. Allergies. And we are sent right back to Ash and Pikachu lounging under the tree. And then we see a
Cricket.
Kricketot.
Yeah, Kricketot, a Diglett, and then we see a Meow. Oh, did I miss one?
Pat Rat.
Oh, Pat Rat. I did miss Pat Rat.
Oh yeah, there is a Pat Rat in the tree right before the Diglett pops up.
And then we see a Meowth, and Meowth walks right over to Ash and just looking all sorts of dumbstruck. And Ash just jumps up. He's like, a Meowth? And then boom, you hear a big bang, and a net comes down, and it captures Pikachu. And it takes Pikachu up into the air. Meowth jumps up, and he's like, bye. And Ash is like, what are you doing? And Team Rocket is like, Jesse's like, if you have to ask us what you are doing, James is like, we'll answer out of the sympathy for the world. Whoosh. And they start going through the motto, and I'll recite the Japanese one because it's not often that we do the Japanese translation, but we have Jesse go, to protect the world from devastation. And then James, to preserve world peace. And then Pikachu's like, oh, Jesus. And Jesse's back, and she's like, championing the evils of truth and love. And then James is like, we're the lovely, charming villains. This doesn't really slide off the tongue like the English version does.
I'm sure it makes sense in Japanese.
I'm sure it does. And then Jesse's like, Jesse, James. And then they just jump down, and Jesse's like, the Team Rocket duo soars through the galaxy. And James is like a white hole, a white tomorrow awaits us. And Pikachu's like, oh, Jesus. And Meowth jumps down. He's like, just kidding. Meow. And then Wobbuffet.
I hate that. Before we get too deep into what Team Rocket's into this episode, I clocked it the first time it happened, and I said, oh, that must have just been something he does in his introduction. No, it's every goddamn sentence Meowth says, it's punctuated with a meow.
Yes.
That's annoying.
Yes. That is something that Meowth does in the Japanese version. He speaks like a human, but then it gets lets you be known that he is a cat.
We understand that he's a cat.
All right.
Like this was a new development.
Grant, so right after the duo's saying, do you want to go over the next part of this scene?
Yeah. So Ash is like, well, damn it, why are you here? Whenever Pikachu may be, Team Rocket is bound to follow, says Meowth. Like every time.
Meow.
And then Ash is like Pikachu use 100,000 volts, which I don't know what attack that actually is.
So that would be Thunderbolt is what it's translated.
Thunderbolt, okay.
Yeah, translated here in English.
Okay. Alrighty, so he uses Thunderbolt, and James is like, yeah, I got, an electric net. Like, this isn't the first time we've done this. And they're like, yep, it absorbs electricity. And then Ash is like, all right, then use Iron Tail. But of course, Team Rocket, again, they're like, yeah, we've thought of that too. Don't bother, bro. And, yeah, they're just saying, yeah, it's nice innovation. Any impact whatsoever, the Super DX Capture Net.
Super
then they just kind of, and they just walk away. And then Ash is like, well, I have Noivern here. And Noivern uses Blast Waves. And Jesse sends Wobbuffet to reflect that. And then Ash throws out Donphan. Donphan shoots it back at Wobbuffet. Or just absorbs it while rolling. And then, Team Rocket freaks out. Then Ash sends out Sceptile to use Leaf Blade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the evolved form of Snivy?
Trico.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty badass, right?
Yeah. It's been a minute since I've dealt with the Trico.
Yeah, that's the Gen 3 one.
That was Trico. That was Ruby and Sapphire, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was your final version before you hung up Pokemon.
Yeah, that was my last one that I fully committed to before I tapped out.
And I just love Team Rocket's expression because Jesse and James, James looks back and just full blown says, like, in character, is this allowed? Because he's like he never has these Pokemon. But of course, Pikachu gets free. It does its 10 or 100,000 volts, which is the Thunderbolts, over to Team Rocket. Team Rocket's like, no, boom, and they just start blasting off, and all the Pokemon are just sitting there, and they're like, yeah, we saved you. And this is the first time,
guys, yeah.
And this is the first time in a while that we actually see that Ash is actually changing up his party.
I was floored.
And using Pokemon that he had that never ever get mentioned once he goes to the next generation.
I know.
He's like, the hell with you guys.
I'm going to go capture some new Pokemon, but I guess now that you're a champion, you can go back and start actually training your Pokemon, because I'm sure they've seen Professor Oak more than they've seen you, Ash.
Yeah.
That's how I used to do it. I'd beat the Elite Four. Yeah, it was the Elite Four when I was seriously playing. I would beat it, and then I would basically just use the Elite Four as XP training, and I would just run through it, and I would have whatever the big chip was, the XP multiplier, and I'd have it. Put it on one Pokemon, run through it. Put it on another Pokemon, run through it again. I mean, it got monotonous, but it got my Pokédex filled out.
Yes, and I think what they've done in Pokemon games now, which I am so happy for, is once you defeat the Pokemon League, that's not the end of the game. It's
right.
Yeah, they finally have started adding DLC, but even outside of the DLC, once you complete the game, I can speak on this for for the latest versions that they have brought out, there's an end game. Like once you beat the Pokemon League, there's a whole nother story at the very end of the game that you still have to go through. So,
Well, even at the very least, if once you beat the Elite Four the first time, if you go back the second time, they're stronger.
yeah, they are.
Like that was a thing even back in like I think even Let's Go Pikachu. I don't know how far back that goes.
It's a couple of years at this point, at least.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that, and because I mean it helps give you a little bit more of a challenge. They found ways to, like, for people that play the game online now, that you have weekly challenges. Like you were able to get Charizard during the holiday, which was awesome, and it was a perfect Charizard that you were able to get, and then you were able to get Cinderace a few weeks ago, and I forget if they announced who the one is supposed to come out this Friday, but there's another one that's supposed to drop this upcoming Friday that I'm interested in getting. So we shall see. But okay. After that nice little battle, Ash is like, Pikachu, are you okay? And Pikachu's like, yeah, of course I'm okay. And we jump right up to Jessie, and she's like, I don't get it. And they're flying in the sky, so they're still blasting off everyone. She's like, I don't get it. Our Pikachu countermeasures never work. And James like, yeah, we didn't prepare for any of his other Pokemon, which is a line that I want you guys to remember because that's going to come back later.
Right.
And Wobbuffet's like, yeah, Wabba. And Meowth is like, well, now we'll know for the next time, Meow. And then
do that after every line, I will hang up this phone.
Now that I know that it bothers you. But no, I'm not going to do it every time. But it's from there, Team Rocket is like, all right, well, what haystack are we going to fly into this time? And then all of a sudden they get knocked off course because something is flying out of the sky. And you immediately know that it's either Latios or Latias just by the form that you see, like, coming down from the sky, but it's in its invisible form. And then all of a sudden it just goes and it crashes into the water. And Ash looks over and he's like, huh? What the hell was that? And that's when we get our Who's That Pokemon. And in this Japanese version, it's how do you pronounce it? Noivern?
Noivern. I do have a question though.
Yes.
Because you've watched Journeys more than I have.
Yes.
Do they do this like magnifying glass thing?
Yes.
Or are they still doing the silhouettes? Okay.
No, they do the magnifying glass. So at the beginning, you get like a very close-up look of the Pokemon, and Pikachu always looks kind of confused. And then when they come back and they say the Pokemon, then Pikachu's all happy again.
That's cute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. It's well, at least for Journeys, they've done this in the Journeys version ever since they started it.
Okay. Oh, and they give you the type too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's new.
Yes, and at the end of each episode, well, I know they don't do it on this one, but on the end of each episode for Journeys, you get it's like an ending song credits, but each ending song credits is different because they're giving you a Pokemon quiz. So they're like singing to you a Pokemon quiz, and you have to guess what type of they'll flash a Pokemon on the screen, and you have to guess what type it is. They give you like 3 seconds, and then they tell you. It's actually pretty cool. I prefer it over what they do in the English version.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
You hipster.
I do. I mean, because and my son, I mean, God bless him, but he like looks at me and I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay, electric, ground, dragon ground, or whatever the type is. And my son's just looking at me. He's like, are you really doing this? He's like, this is for like 5-year-olds, Dad. I was like, they're asking me the types of the Pokemon. I'm gonna say it, and I always watch it because at the very end of the episode, they give you like a 10-second snippet of what next week's episode's going to be. So
something I'm kind of upset they never did when it came out west. I mean, I don't know if they started doing it But like I know they didn't do it like during Kanto.
No. And it's just, I mean, here now, I mean, we're getting it on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, on Netflix. So, I mean, they have no incentive to go, okay, here's what happens on the next episode, or to do any of that mumble jumble. Because as soon as it goes to the credits, it's like, play next episode now, and you just click a button, and then
you don't even have to click. You just let it run for 5 seconds or whatever it is.
So yeah, they're like, yeah, we'll save that extra $10 on the ending scene. But okay, so back into the episode. So it crashed into the water, and it disturbed a whole bunch of Pokemon that are over in the area. And Ash is looking; he still has his Pokemon out of their Pokeball, and he's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "Let's go check it out." And Pikachu jumps on top of Noivern, and they just start running in this forest. And as they're running down, you just see some ripples inside of the water, and you see Noivern fly over the water, and it's just looking at the fin of whatever has crashed into the water. And Pikachu's like, "Pika?" Ash is looking, and he's like, "Something's over there." Well, no. And all of a sudden, you get the red of the tail, and Ash is like, "Wait a minute, that's..." And he's just looking, and he jumps into the water in all of his clothes, and he's just pulling this Pokemon up, and boom, he's like, "Latias!" He's like, "Hold on, Latias." And Latias, he's never met this Latias. He's met a different Latias, but he knows what this Latias is. And this Latias, it does not know Ash. It makes it known that it doesn't know Ash. It's like, "What are you doing? Let go of me. Let go. Let go." And he just doesn't have enough strength to really wield off Ash at this point, and just kind of falls right back into Ash's arms while they're in the water. And Ash is like, "What's wrong, Latias?" He's like, "I'm so sorry that I scared you." And he starts swimming Latias over to land, and then Latias kind of takes him underneath the water. and um and at this point, Ash kind of jumps up, and he throws out his Buizel, and has Buizel use its tail to push Latias and Ash back over to land, because Ash is not strong enough to get Latias back over to land on his own. And he pulls Latias out. He lays Latias down. Latias just looks beat up, and Ash is like, "Man, she's wounded all over." And Pikachu pulls Ash's bag over, and Ash's like, "Man, thank you, Pikachu." And he opens the bag up, and he's like, "Just wait, Latias, I'm gonna heal you." And he takes out some wrap and a potion. And Grant, do you want to go over the next part as sun falls?
Yeah. So it goes up into the trees and goes dark. There's a hoot hoot on a tree, and it scales down, and then Team Rocket's walking in the woods. And Jesse's like, "I'm hungry, everything hurts." Wobbuffet's complaining. Then they see the fire up ahead, and Ash has made a campfire. And he's sitting there with Latias, Pikachu, and Buizel. And then Team Rocket's like, "There's the twerp." And they're all standing around the fire. They're observing what's going on. And Ash has wrapped a bandage around Latias's wing or tail. I don't know if that's a wing or tail, but
I'd say wing.
Part of...
Yeah, I was going to say wing myself.
And so Team Rocket's like, "Well, let's get the Rotom Dex out," which I didn't know they had a black Rotom Dex.
Yes, so Team Rockets, they have a Rotom that has a virus in it, and it's a very... Yes, so they have a black Rotom. It has a virus, and on top of that, the Rotom that they have is a very lazy Rotom, so half the time it doesn't even want to even work for Team Rocket. So there you go.
That's why when Meowth was like, "Hey, what's that Pokemon?" That's why the Rotom was kind of giving attitude a little bit.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Doug, do you want to go over this part with the Pokédex entry of Latias?
Yes. So, it was kind of weird for Ash not to be the one to pull out a Pokédex. But we find out that Latias is described as a boundless Pokemon, and it is a dragon and psychic type. And we get a nice little image of Latias, and we find out that it communicates using telepathy. Its body is covered in down, so like the feathers and shit. That reflects light to make it invisible, which is what we saw when it crash landed in the water. Basically, the Rotom sums it up and is like, it's a legendary Pokemon.
Get it now?
You get it?
Smart ass.
Team Rocket's like, oh my god, that's a legendary Pokemon. And their eyes get big, and James' eyes literally start to shine, and Jessie gets a little blush under her cheeks. And she's like, this is a huge find. We should go catch it now.
You almost did it. Meowth is like, we're going to catch it, Meow.
Reminds me of that scene in Super Troopers where they're sitting in the car, they're Mow.
Now I'm not going to get that out of my head every time I see Meowth now. Thank you, Doug.
Well, that's what you get. We see, Ash is kind of tending to Latias by the fire, and then we see the kind of the extent of Latias's injury. We see that one of the wings is bandaged, and Ash is like, "Oh, it got untied. Here, let me fix this." And he undoes the bandaging, and Pikachu picks up the potion that he had earlier. He kind of reapplies the spray, and he's like, "Oh, this is going to sting a little bit."
You were asleep the first time that I put it on you, but now it might hurt a little bit.
And then he redresses the wound, and Pikachu and the rest of the Pokemon are looking on, and area of Pokeball to be found, and it's weird seeing Ash look competent by himself.
Yeah, I mean, he's learned, and you can kind of tell that he's maturing quite a bit as well, which kind of makes me a little happy because, I mean, at least when they're doing this whole goodbye journey for Ash, he's not incompetent anymore. So
no, like he's not like being pig-headed and being like, well, I'm going to go out on my own. And meanwhile, he can't boil water.
Brock used to do this for me. Now, how do you do this?
We always manage to pick a companion that can cook.
Yeah. He's been very, very lucky and fortunate. But so maybe I'm wrong. That is a Buizel, or is that a Floatzel? That's not a Floatzel. That's a Buizel, right?
It's a Buizel. Yeah,
it's a Buizel. That was one of the few Pokemon that was a direct translation in Japanese and English, which is handy because that's not always the case.
No,
I did learn something that all the legendaries should have the same names.
Yes,
or the mythicals too.
Oh, that's handy too.
Yeah, so those ones are the only ones that don't really get translated. They're all the same.
I mean, like Pikachu's the same. Like, because I was going through the intro, and it was like, Charizard was there, and Squirtle was there, and Bulbasaur was there, and I think Charizard was something like Lizardon. And I was like, well, that's not the same.
Yes,
Magikarp was Koi King.
Right.
So, all right, Doug, you want to finish the scene off?
So yeah, Ash is like redressing the wound, and he's like, okay, that should feel better soon, and you can just rest up now, Latias. And you can kind of see Latias kind of has one eye kind of half open and is like, okay, he's not going to hurt me. I can fall asleep, and he falls asleep. And then we see a transition from nighttime to early morning, and we see
some
a couple of fletchlings.
Yes,
Fletch.
Yeah.
Fletch. Okay, fletchling. Cute little birds, and then it kind of looks like Neuven and Sceptile were kind of keeping watch.
Yes.
Because we see Buizel and Domfin are asleep. And obviously Pikachu is resting on Latias. And
Latias just kind of wakes up in a frenzy.
I see Ash's pack, but I didn't see Ash. Latias, like you said, kind of wakes up kind of groggily, and Sceptile and Neuven are like, movement. Oh, there's Ash. He's on Latias.
Yes.
She can't feel great, but anyway. Latias wakes up and kind of looks around and is like, I don't recognize any of you people. What the hell's going on? And she bolts up, and this was like the first instance of dumb Ash, because Ash is just like, oh, good morning, just waving. Like, no, can't you see that Latias is distressed?
It's in battle form.
And Latias looks over at its bandaged wing, or her bandaged wing, I'm sorry, and is like, I can't be having this. And they're like, ow. And Ash is like, hey, no, come on, it's not ready yet. And you can see Latias trying to get that first burst of energy to get up and, well, not get up, but to turn and go. And she just can't manage it because she's weak. And Ash is like, oh, she's scared. And Pikachu's kind of trying to talk. You can see that Pikachu's got a concerned look on its face and is trying to calm her down. And Ash is like, I don't know what happened to you, but I was just trying to help. And we're trying to help. And Pikachu jumps on Ash's shoulder, trying to kind of show that this is a friendly environment. And he's like, we're all worried about you. And we pan over and we see all of Ash's Pokemon standing in a row. And Ash is like, oh, you should probably come down now. And he's like, do you understand? And Latias is just like, I
can't fly away.
And then all of a sudden Pikachu's ears perk up, like something's out from the distance, and all of a sudden this mechanical mouth, I hate that. I hate what I just said, but it's accurate.
Yeah.
Comes out of the trees,
and it sucks Latias in.
And Ash is apparently so athletic that he can jump in the path of the suction as well, so he gets sucked in as well. And this is when we get another instance of the Pikachu shocked face at 1646. Love that frame. And the machine recoils back into the forest, and then we see the telltale hot air balloon, and the machine spits out Latias, and they're like, we caught Latias. And obviously Latias can't get out of the bubble at the bottom of the balloon. And then Ash just plops down on top of her, which again can't be good for the injured wing.
No, but did you look at the frame when Ash just drops right on top of Latias? Latias just looks back at him, and he's like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, Ash is just kind of like, oh, fancy meeting you here. We should stop meeting like this. And
Meowth kind of looks over because they're turning on some like some freeze contraption inside of this little plastic bubble, and they're basically trying to freeze Latias so they can get it over to Giovanni. And
well, also dragon types are weak against ice.
Yes,
which we know, of course, because we've been dealing in
black and white
episodes, and Iris freaks out every time.
Yes. And Ash is like, and Meowth is like, what the hell was that noise? So he looks over and he's like, oh, we caught a twerp too. He says it came with a worthless freebie.
Which is pretty good, to be fair.
So all of Ash's Pokemon are on the ground and they see Team Rocket's balloon floating away, and Ash's Pokemon are just sitting there and they're like, and Jesse's like, if the Brat Boy is up here, those guys can't attack. Oh no, this is Meow. He's like, they can't attack us from down there. He's like, oh, of course, he could be our hostage, Jesse goes. And James is like, taking hostage is elementary villainy. And Buffett. And Pikachu's like, oh, you'd have messed with the wrong Pokemon. And Jesse's like, hey, don't you move, Pikachu. Don't you care what could happen to Brat Boy? And Ash is just freezing inside of this little tiny bubble, and Latias is freezing herself because it's weak against the ice type. And Ash is like, kids, don't get cold. I could deal with this just fine.
Hey man, this show needs to get out of my head.
And Ash is like, Latias, are you okay? And part of me, when he went to go hug Latias, was like, okay, Ash is really, really cold. And he's like, maybe if I hug up against Latias, I can maybe get a little bit warmer.
I mean, the expression Latias is giving him is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get away.
For real. Ash is just like, just hold on. I'll get you out of here somehow. And Latias is like, oh, okay. Grant, you want to go over the next part in this scene?
Yeah. So James is like, escape is impossible. This time we exhaustively researched Latias. And now the ice-hating dragon type faces Operation Super Cooled Capsule.
Where are they getting all of these names? Because we had the DX Capture Net or whatever, and now we got Operation Super Cooled Capsule.
I mean, I like the names. It's better than just the nameless contraptions they usually get.
Yeah,
at least now they have there's a catalog.
I found this on page 4.
One step up from Acme.
Yeah.
But all right, Grant.
Yeah, they're like, it's super successful. Operation success. What a great feeling. This is great. And Ash and Latias are just hanging in the bubble. Ash is like, we can do this. I know Pikachu can do this. And Pikachu's like, fuck yeah, I can. Ash is like, send the 10,000 volts again. And Ash is like, all right, I'm here. I'm ready. Hit me. Then Pikachu sends his Thunder Shock. It goes all the way, hits the bubble, shocks Ash like crazy. Really only hurts Ash. Does nothing except shock the hell out of Ash. And Ash is like, all right, I got this. And Latias has this ridiculous look on his face of just like pure.
What is this kid doing?
Yeah, just very wide-eyed, just this guy is insane. But he might actually break this bubble. And it did. Electric shock broke the bubble. There's glass everywhere. Team Rocket's freaking out.
Team Rocket's
Ladia.
animation, I'm on 1858. Like their expression on their face is just priceless. They're like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, that's what they might as well have said. Like the caption obviously says they're like, no way, but they might as well be, oh fuck.
All right, Grant, you can continue.
So yeah, the bubble bursts. They freak out. Ladia starts falling, and Ash is like stretching his arms out because he's gonna catch Latias because he has capabilities of fixing this. And then Noivern jumps up, and Ash is like, "Take my hands, we'll fall together." And Latias grabs his hands, and then Latias flies off, and Noivern's like, "Whoa, this motherfucker faking it the whole time."
Line of the podcast.
Yeah. So Noivern gets up, and Team Rocket's like pilled out there.
Yeah, they're completely like just white. Like all the color is completely gone from Team Rocket and from Wobbuffet.
Besides Jesse's pink lipstick.
Yes.
Of course.
So Ash looks over and he's like, "Blast wave, Noivern," and Noivern goes over and boom, hits the balloon. Team Rocket goes blasting off again, but the balloon actually explodes, so Team Rocket's actually literally going blasting off. And Meowth was like, "Man, we were so close, Meow." And then we have James with an afro from being Friday. He's like, "Whoops, this time we didn't prepare for anything for Pikachu." And then he just flies off. Jessie's like, "Just when we caught a legendary Pokemon." And she has a nice little fro as well. And Wobbuffet is just saluting everybody. It's just like, "All right, until we see you again." And they're like, "Oh, what an awful feeling." And then bling, we get the nice little star. Latias brings Ash back down to the ground, flies back off into the air. I was kind of mad at this. So Latias basically brings Ash down, and Ash is like, "Well, thank you." And Latias is just flying away. And if Ash didn't say thank you, Latias was just going to fly away, and he was not going to see Latias anymore. But Latias just kind of looks back and goes, "All right, thank you." And then turns invisible and just flies away. Like there's no happy feeling. I would have felt better if Latias was like, "All right, I'll join you on your journey, Ash, of becoming a master. I'll let you capture me." But no, just flies away. No care in the world. Barely gives any type of thank you to Ash, and it's just gone.
That Latias has plans to meet. Like, there's a legendary brunchin that she is late for.
For real. But we never did find out what happened to Latias to make it crash either. I mean,
so when Ash shocked Team Rocket and they blasted off the first time, while they're flying, they hit Latias.
Oh, so Latias was just flying, but I thought Latias was crashing at the time.
Latias was hurt before that because its wing was already bandaged.
No. Latias was flying, and then when Team Rocket was blasting off, they hit the wing.
Oh.
No, but it was already bandaged.
But it was invisible.
Yeah, it was invisible.
Unless...
Yeah, it was. It didn't have the bandage at first, but I do see because I'm watching that clip now back around the 4-minute mark. So yeah, it hit James, and when it hit James, it set Team Rocket off into another part. But yeah, it did hit it hit the wing, and Latias was like, "Oh crap!" And it's going flat. You see, I didn't even notice that when I was watching this. I was like, "What happened?" This whole time, I'm like, "What happened to Latias?" But I thought we were going to find out later. But I'm glad we have you on, Grant, because you did just open my eyes to that. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing where it's kind of a weird way Ash's fault. Like,
yeah. But Ash kind of looks down at his hands and he's like, man, I got to touch another Latias. And he's all dirty. He's
Oh, he
grimy.
touched the last one.
And he looks up into the sky where Latias was flying to. He has no idea where Latias is. We see a whole bunch of Pidgey flying. And Ash is walking on the journey again. So it has officially gone, like cleaned himself up, because we see a whole bunch of Butterfree flying around. We see a Snorlax with a Bunnery laying on its stomach. Ash is continuing. We get the narrator talking that Pikachu's journey is going somewhere, even today. So even the narrator doesn't know where Ash is heading off to, even though we do know that the next episode, Ash is going to be meeting up with Misty. So he's going to be returning to Cerulean City. Maybe Cerulean City. I'm gonna put a question mark, because I know they're gonna be fighting over a water Pokemon, and the winner of their battle will get this water Pokemon. So I know that's the premise, but Ash is just walking. And I feel like that's going to kind of be the ending that we get to every single episode. Oh, there's Latias again.
I was going to say, we do see Latias again.
And some sparkly sunshine.
Yes.
It's actually the final shot. That's how it goes to be continued. It's on Latias. So I feel like Latias is going to come back to factor. It's kind of like when Ash saw Ho-Oh in episode 1.
Yes. And how it came back later on in a movie.
Right.
That has no relevance to the series.
Yeah, no, because
it came back in an episode.
It might have. I probably haven't seen that episode.
It did it more like once Gen 3 started, but like every like generation after Gen 3, there's always like these like legendary episodes that are like this big like trilogies like each generation has one. Like Gen 3 started it, but like Gen 2 had a little bit of it with Ho-Oh. So.
Yeah, they had one in Journey, which was like I think it was a 2 or 3 parter with Mewtwo and Mew. Yeah. Where Ash finally meets back up with Mewtwo, and Mewtwo grants him a battle to see if he can beat it. And Mewtwo, I believe he agrees that he'll go with Ash or something along those lines if Ash can beat him. But obviously, Ash doesn't beat him. So, and Mewtwo's like, all right, I'm out of here. And then just flies away and finds another location for him and all of the clones. So... But yeah, that was this episode. So I'm going to throw this on over to you, Grant, before I throw this over to Doug. On a scale of 1 to 5, knowing that this is starting to close out the chapter for Ash, what would you give this out of 5 stars?
I'd give it like a 4. Like, the story really didn't go anywhere. There's nothing really that even happened throughout the episode. Like, he just kind of walked. Like, I feel like I was a little like bummed just because like Ash had 5 Pokemon out at one time, and it was kind of doing a thing where it was like Pikachu's Gen 1, Donphan's Gen 2, Sceptile's Gen 3, Weasel's Gen 4, and it skipped the Noivern to Gen 6. I'm like, there's no Gen 5 Pokemon. Come on.
You know, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But, you know, we only saw 5 of the
6.
Yeah, 5 of the 6 Pokemon that he has. So he still has 1 Pokemon on his belt that we haven't seen yet. So I'm kind of curious as to which Pokemon that would have been.
I have a feeling this whole like series here is going to be like meeting back with all the like going to every single generation of characters and dealing with them somehow.
Yeah, because I know the next one is Misty, and then it's already been revealed via the TV guide that the third episode is revolving around Brock. So Brock is coming.
Oh yeah,
back.
see, they were there for a lot more seasons than like some of the other companions, so I'm sure they get their own episodes individually.
Yes. So I
will be disappointed if Team Rocket doesn't get like a good send off, like because they were pretty much there from the beginning as well.
And, I was having that same thought. So
like
maybe Team Rocket gets their own episode towards the end, or maybe they get that weird 12th episode. So after Ash, we say goodbye to Ash on episode 11. Maybe that weird week where there's where there's not supposed to be an episode. Maybe we get one with Team Rocket. Hopefully,
maybe like.
But there's still got to be a big bad that's like.
While with like Brock and Misty and like Viridian City, they finally steal Pikachu and bring him to Giovanni, and Giovanni's like, "Good job, here's a promotion," but somehow Pikachu escapes anyway from Giovanni, and therefore it's no longer Team Rocket's problem.
Yeah, they can do they could do a two-parter with that. Huh.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they can actually capture it, give it to Giovanni, and Ash doesn't think that he's going to get Pikachu back, but they have to bring everybody together in a big battle with Giovanni. Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be cool as shit.
That would be really cool. Okay.
Like one final set, like
one big battle.
Team Rocket gets the credit and the promotion that they've always wanted, and they can go.
Oh, it'll be really cool. And I'm just fanboying right now. So, and obviously I know nothing past what the third episode is going to be, but what if Giovanni's actually going to beat Ash, but the only saving point is that Mewtwo comes back to save the day at the very end?
Yeah, because technically he never battled Giovanni for the gym leader. He battled Team Rocket.
So
unfinished ties there.
Yeah.
Or maybe I bet with Misty and Brock, he's gonna have to battle them for the gym badge because he got pitied.
Yeah, he never did beat Misty, so he does. This next episode is revolving around just a battle. Like the whole episode is focused around a battle for them to. I think they're trying to get a Clamper. I think that's what the Pokemon's name is. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
I don't know. I saw a Totodile, so I'm happy.
The stuff they call it was like Clauncher, I think.
Yeah, Clauncher. There it is. I'm looking at it right here. So yeah, they're fighting over a Clauncher because they're both fishing and they both bring out Clauncher at the same time, and they both want to fight to see who can capture it. So.
And he's got a different set of Pokemon he used.
Yup. So he'll be revolving his Pokemon. So it looks like Ash has Pikachu, Totodile, Corphish, Levani, and Rowlet. So again, 5 Pokemon.
Yeah, we'll see one from Gen 5 and another one from Gen 7. Yeah.
Well, we know Ash is allergic to the number 6.
Yeah, he is. Misty has. Wait a minute. Hold up. I see Psyduck. Misty's Psyduck never evolved into a Golduck?
No, because for the same reason, probably Meowth and Pikachu don't evolve. Like, there's a point where it's such a character that evolving it would be kind of like a disservice. Such a love.
Togepi evolved. Togepi evolved into a Togetic.
Because I think Togepi was more... I don't think people really loved Togepi. I think Togepi was just there. Whereas there's a hardcore fan base for Psyduck.
Yeah.
With
there's
Pikachu,
some serious love.
You can make the rationalization that Ash just never got his hands on a stone other than the one that Surge tried to give him after the first battle when Pikachu got
all he has to do is go to a Pokemart.
I mean, I know. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. I forget what generation it was, but there was a Team Rocket plot that throw a stone at Pikachu and get him to evolve, or something like that.
I'm gonna have to see that episode. That sounds funny.
Yeah.
So,
Like, it comes up again, so.
So Doug, this is your first time really kind of diving in hard for a Japanese annotation of Pokemon, like we're going to be going episode by episode by. So what would you give this? Kind of knowing what the next two episodes are, but not really knowing what the future is so far. What would you give this out of 5?
I mean, this is a 3.5. I mean, it's heavy on the nostalgia, which you have to appreciate. It was cool seeing Ash, use the majority of his party. I recognized, a couple. Like I recognized Donphan, I recognized Sceptile. I just forgot his name.
There's so many Pokemon.
There's like you said, there's over 1,000. So yeah, I mean, this was a good first step. Team Rocket is, I would say, more of the Kanto version than the black and white version, but still more competent than the Kanto version, so that's a win.
Yes.
I have a feeling I'm going to hate Meowth. It was nice to see Wobbuffet again. It had been a minute. Like I say, we're going to see Totodile next week, so I'm excited about that. He was like low key one of my favorites. So yeah, like I say, good first step, solid 3.5.
All right, cool. And I will give this episode a MD2 MCYT 6N69YY. That is your code, everybody. I will give this episode a good 3.5. I'm going to be right on board with you. I think I want to save some of my like higher rankings maybe towards the end, because I feel like within the coming weeks that we're going to be hitting some heavy hitter episodes, and I feel like they're in these first few they're going to have him come back in touch with like Iris, Silent, Brock, Misty, maybe Tracy. I'm sorry?
Clement.
Yeah, Clement. I hope not. Maybe Tracy, because I mean, every time we go back to Kanto, I mean, we're not really getting too much of Tracy. We got one glimpse of Tracy during Journeys.
He's always like there. They don't really do much with him.
No.
But, yeah. I think they just kind of were like, shit, we need to get Brock back.
So yeah, just
I would love to see Richie again.
Yeah, Richie. Yeah, the photographer. Oh, no, not the photographer. Wasn't he the one that was with Ash in the first Pokemon League?
Yeah, he was like the main rival turned like really good friend during the Pokemon League, and I think Richie lost maybe the round after Ash lost or something. It wasn't long.
Yeah, the one where he was battling with the Charizard and Charizard fell asleep and he was just like,
yeah,
it was like the most lame win.
Yep. That's funny. So apparently, this is very, very poorly translated, but apparently Brock's episode is going to revolve around him getting out of a very serious relationship.
Oh.
So apparently he's going through a really bad breakup when he meets up with Ash again. So I guess
Brock just needs to get on them apps, man.
Yeah,
he keeps walking to the Pokemon Center and his wife's getting concerned.
But I guess the Pokemon that's in that episode that's being heavily promoted is a Hatterene, which I guess goes off of emotions of people and Pokemon. So it's going to play off of Brock's heartbreak emotion in this episode. Because it's called Brock and Takeshi and Dent and the Forest Witch is what it's called. But I don't know who Dent is, but it's Takeshi is Brock. So yeah, that's next week's episode.
There's another chunk here after with Team Rocket walking. They're saying, "Hey, we're going to the Palino region," and they see the Scarlet thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did I not go far enough?
Yeah, it's they're looking at Gen 9 stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. For the last few weeks, so they've been coming across a lot of the Gen 9 Pokemon, and then they see a Koraidon, which Koraidon's animation looks fucking amazing. I like it. And they're like, yeah, let's catch this Koraidon real quick. Koraidon's like, yeah, how about not? And just chases them and just blasts them off. That's awesome. So maybe we are going to get them in the next season. So maybe we're not saying bye to Team Rocket.
But you still got to have a bad guy,
Yeah, but they could have so many people be bad guys. Like, let Team Rocket go and give us some fresh bad guys, like some legit bad guys that doesn't have too much comedy behind them. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, but you can't be too serious all the time. You got to have some levity.
Yeah. So, all right. But that was this week's episode, everybody. So we hope that you all enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Grant, I want to thank you again for coming on and reviewing this and being on this special episode to start all of this for Ash's final journey going through.
So, yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming back on again. Doug, do you have anything else to say before we're signing off here today?
No, just I'm excited to be covering some fresh episodes, to the point that they can't even, we're beating Netflix to the punch, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a while. I think we got at least 6 months before these episodes are gonna hit Netflix, maybe even longer, because I think I don't even think they've gotten to the championship rounds of on the Netflix version. So I think we're pretty safe for at least 6 to 8 months, I'm hoping. So,
nice.
Yeah. So, but all right, if neither one of you have anything else to say, Grant, go ahead and say goodbye to all of our fans.
Goodbye, all fans.
I thought you were about to say OnlyFans. I swear that's what I thought you were about to say. I was like, go ahead and say, Jesus. Goodbye, Doug.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, please join us every single week for the next 10 weeks, everybody, because we are going to be diving deep into these episodes week after week as they are airing for people here on Patreon. And then, of course, if you're listening on the free feed, you have at least 3 months worth of this. So just sit back and enjoy the ride, everybody. But this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, we'll see you next week for another one. Have a good night, everyone.